So I think that that was a really good attempt to make short little snippets of my stuff. That being said, I'm going to move on to some of the other stuff that I wanted to do, because I have talked about doing little tutorials before with the AI stuff that I do. I know that AI, for a lot of people who've never touched it, never heard of it, not doing anything with it, it can be really intimidating. And honestly, even with as much AI experience as I have, when I come across a new tool, I get intimidated at the beginning. Especially if you're really aware of how much everything costs, and just experimenting with it can be expensive when you're figuring it out. So let's go over here. I'm gonna start this little screen recorder. Okay, so what we're looking at here is my Suno. It has stuff already in it, so this is basically like just a fun way to see what I've currently been working on. But anyway, let's get familiar with Suno, right? So Suno starts, here's your homepage, you want to make a song. I literally never make a song from this page, so I'll be perfectly honest, I don't know how to do it with this. I'm sure it works like any other LLM. You just talk it through kind of what you want. You could say, I hate the advertisements that give you really base stuff, like, young man, big dreams. It's just dumb. How about, as we go out of the 4th of July and we start heading towards spooky season, and some of you, it's too early for spooky season, but you could start doing spooky season, witches, spellcasting, but I've been in a very, like, rappy, bouncy beat mood, right? So I'm not just going to say, like, rap with, like, girl pop. No, I'm going to say, like, speed rap, because I want it to be really, really fast. And I want it to have a bouncy beat, because I really like the bouncy beat. Here's another one, right, that people don't understand, or that we don't think about. These AIs do the average, which has been a big complaint that people have with it. Basically what it means is that of all the music that there is, from the lowest crap to the best stuff that you can find, it's just going to take the average. So of all these kind of pop songs that it listens to, when you ask for pop, it's going to give you a generic pop sound. That's fine if you know what direction you want to take it in with other genres, with instruments, with whatever subject you're talking about. But just putting pop, you're going to get something very flat. Because it's just average predictive pop sound. The thing with AI, and when people talk about AI slop, and what I talk about when I talk about meaning and intention, and that goes for analog and AI art, is when you create something, going with a vision and a direction, and being the director of your art, knowing that when you make something you want somebody to feel a certain thing, that's the goal. Now, you can make anything without having it do whatever. It's just experimentation. Of course you can play with art. It's fun. You can do anything with it. You take a stick and draw it in mud, and it's still art. I don't care who you are. That being said, the best art is art that comes from intention and meaning. And you don't get anything out of AI, Suno, Midjourney, Kling, Chat, Claude, Grok, pick your poison, if you don't know what direction you really want to be going in, and you don't know the feeling of the thing. And the feeling is the most important part, because if you have two people standing at the top of a building as a scene, it could be romance, it could be mystery, it could be thriller, it could be horror, it could be a cop chase, it could be a buddy duo cop thing. You could make it anything. It's about the feeling, and that is what AI is about. So as we look at the screen, we say spooky season and witches, which is supposed to be witches, pardon me. We have spell casting, we have speed rap, we have bouncy beat. We want to start thinking about sounds. And if you're not familiar with a ton of music, this is where musicians are going to get mad at the AI artist, because we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we want it to sound like. That's something that playing with Suno and experimenting will start to teach you. One of the advantages to AI is how fast the repetitions through it go. So if you're not familiar with how pop works or with what pop sounds like, after a few generations, you're going to start to get the idea. You can start putting in new instruments. You can start adding other genres that you like to it. And I would say experiment. If you don't know a lot of music, then your job is going to be educating yourself on said music. That is going to be the name of the game with AI, because AI will be possible to make it. With AI, it'll be possible to make just about anything, but you need to be knowing what it is that you want to be making. That's the real lesson with AI. You want to know what it is you're trying to make, which honestly is like the threat of AI taking over the world, right? So we don't know what we're making. We can't control AI. Anyway, so I don't really want to show, I don't want to do any wasted generations on this, only because I've been flying through my credits for the month, and I don't have a crap ton. This might seem like a crap ton to you guys, but if I get into a creative zone and I really need my credits for stuff, I don't want to be stuck with no credits, so I apologize. There's a few things that you can do on here. I'm just going to give you the quick brief rundown, but I do also want to be helpful, right? This is a fun place to start if you just have a theme and a vibe. Really fun. If you have no lyrics, really fun to just, this is where you can start playing around with sounds, instrument sounds, progressions, rhythm, chords, octaves, like seriously. And it can be very, very, very tricky to get Suno to do some of these things specifically. So learning your AI vocabulary and how to get Suno to do the things sound-wise that you want it to do, musically that you want it to do, lyrically, and we'll get to that, that's where you should go. Now, I will say Suno is far better musically than it is lyrically. And I will say that as a whole, I would literally suggest no AI for blanket lyric writing where you just put it in and pull it out. I wouldn't. They all require editing. Anything AI writing, it all requires editing. Still, we are not at the point where you can fully pass it off and be like, this is good, when it's just AI writing. Sorry, we're not there yet. I don't think so. It's my personal opinion. But that being said, you can have really fun little experimental songs that pop up with this that, I'm sorry, you don't have to worry about. All of these ones here that you're seeing, these party animal ones, they don't really, I prefer on some of these ones that I've just been experimenting on, I don't want to sit and spend hours on lyrics for something that I'm just going to use for content in a video. So I'm relying heavily on the AI lyric generation. If we go here, you'll see this here in the lyrics. Now I can either write the lyrics myself, or I can have it be a prompt, and it will have one of its two AIs of my choosing generate said lyrics. They have pros and cons. Classic is really good at getting you your rhyming schemes, way better than Remy is, but they are really hollow. Half of those rhymes don't mean shit, and the sounds can get more generic musically with Classic because it follows such a strict A-B rhythm and lyric pattern, that it can just get kind of boring. It also, just as a whole here for Suno, really likes to repeat lyrics without knowing why it likes to repeat lyrics. So Classic mode will get you repeated lyrics in the chorus, no problem, and they're going to be back to back with a space and then back to back again a lot of times, or one and then a space and then doing it again. So you'll see that a lot, and you'll even see that within my own album as I've been learning these things. Then when you go to Remy, what you'll get is more interesting musical experimentation that sounds really good, and the lyrics, if you don't pay attention to them, can be really fun to sing. But also they can be more nonsensical than the Classic. The Classic just sounds hollow, but Remy will just be completely nonsensical out of nowhere. You'll be having a good vibe, and then it'll just totally tank. So thank you, AI writing tools. That is why your lyrics for a song that you want to publish should heavily be edited. But cheat code, you can, through multiple generations, get quite a few selective lines of really, really good generated lyrics, and put those into your finished product. And also cheat code currently, make sure that whatever AI product or creative thing that you're putting out there, make sure you do have some human input on it, so that way you can have copyright over the product. It is way more complicated than I am making it sound, but you will want to document what you did that was human input, and just make sure that you do put human input in it, so that way you don't have as many copyright issues as you could in the future. Currently, while the laws are still catching up, I think it'll probably be 20 years of figuring AI copyright I bet it'll be about 20 years of figuring out AI copyright laws for the West. Probably. Anyway, so that is how these work here, and then you go here into your styles. Here you can see that they do vastly different kinds of style advertisements than what they do in their normal Suno ads, which is like country, rap, pop, whatever their crap is. But post-rock is very different from normal rock. Thunderous drums is clearly not a style. It's what they want with an instrument and what they want the instrument to do. Latin, urban, clearly very different sound style. It's not just a genre. So those kinds of things are what you want to be thinking about as you use Suno. And then as you have more fun with it and you have more direction, you can choose the voice that you want, how weird you want it to get, and style influence. And what these essentially mean is this will just get you more experimental sounds. And I say more experimental because it's essentially saying have less predictiveness to it, which means you're going to get things that just hit your ears wrong, but also perhaps some things that hit your ears right. It's just tricky. Then with the style influence, it's just with how much you want it to stick solely to the styles that you're putting in, or if you want it to have a little more flexibility, a little more creative freedom, which I personally do. I think part of the creative process with AI is seeing what AI itself generates. That's what I think is really fun with it. Also, as one final note, as we come back up here and you see these audio, voice, inspo, you can add your own voice. For those that are panicking about voices, guess what? There is a voice authenticator, which I think is brilliant, and I don't know that it's perfect, but I think that that is a wonderful thing to have on here to make sure that the person whose voice is being recorded is who they say they are. Now, I, while doing my experimentations, just wanted to see, because we have this inspiration where you can use one of the songs that you have here or any other of your own personal tunes or things that you've come up with yourself. You can put them in, and it won't do it like word for word or note for note, but it'll take the vibe that you put in there and it'll use it. And it may use the tune, it may use the words, it may strictly stay with it. You can tell it what to do. It actually gives you a ton of options when it pops up, which is really cool. But I actually, for inspo, because I liked a song that I couldn't really describe because musically it sounds so different. And when I just tried to use it for inspiration because I wanted to see what it would do, it said, you can't use that sound. That's a copyrighted sound. And I thought that was freaking great. So then I had to get creative about how I wanted to figure out how to get to that place, which I did, which is an interesting journey in and of itself. But it's too long for this. But that's my point with inspo. There are a lot of safeguards for copyrighted sounds that already exist while giving a crap ton of tools for people to be able to play and experiment and to develop taste, to develop direction, to develop intention. You may not even know what you want to make yet. I'm giving you permission to play. Go play with the art. Go play with the tools. It's not that serious. The world ends one day. The universe ends in a freeze death or perhaps a white hole. The science is still out. Anyway, these are all the tools that you could play with Suno to start getting all kinds of different stuff in your Suno journey. Why would you want to start a Suno journey? Random person who isn't maybe all that interested in art, but maybe you have a small business and maybe you want to make a little extra income or you want to advertise your home crafts. Suno is a really cool tool to make your own music for your stuff. Not only that, as you develop skills with AI, they transfer to other AI skills that you're going to need. They transfer to curation and direction of your own personal product, whatever it is that you're doing. You'll start building skills about how it is you want to communicate more and better, because believe it or not, in the world that we live in, we are not as good at communicating our direct thoughts as we think we are. And AI, I actually think, is helping us get better at that if we can utilize it without having it just captain the whole ship, right? So maybe the next time you make a social media post on your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn business account, you can go to Suno, you can make some tunes, you can make a song, you can advertise some stuff, you can even put it as background music to an introduction video to yourself. There's all kinds of things that you can do. It's about being creative. I'm going to sit here and say, don't do necessarily what everyone else is doing, but still do something that you think is going to work, because you still got to make it work. Anyway, I know that's fucking contradictory. Anyway, that's how you can use Suno. Haha, there we go. Ta-da. Next thing we're going to talk about here is Midjourney, because it is what I'm going to be making the film and the music videos out of, mostly, for the most part, besides Kling, which we'll talk about another time. So, Midjourney, how does this one work? This one is really confusing at first, and I was really thrown off by it, especially when you start and you have this explore option, and you're like, wow, I'm seeing everybody's art, because that's essentially what you are seeing. It is a Facebook of people's art that they've generated on Midjourney. To generate art on Midjourney is to essentially have the art on your feed. So everything I've ever made is on my feed, literally for all of you to see if you wanted to go there and see it. Everything that I will and won't ever use that I've generated is on there, which I think is fascinating. And as you can see here on the screen, there's all kinds of crazy different stuff, and a lot of it's really cool, and it's really fascinating, and some of it's kind of dumb. If I'm honest with you, some of it's really stupid. I don't know what this wine glass thing is. I'm sorry. I hope I don't hurt anyone's feelings, but I think it looks stupid. Oh, the bunny's cute. Oh, look at the spiky spiral thing. Anyway, there's all kinds of things on here, and that's how it works. It works kind of like social media. It's all in their servers, and it's just all public facing, and it's all like a social media place of congregation for art. That's what it is. It's like a giant online art gallery. That's what it is, where you generate your art and it all goes on there. Boom. So you can do a style creator, which I have done. I use my style for the project. That's what I developed, my own style for it, which is why a lot of the art all feels consistent and put together, even if it's all a little bit different. It's because I'm using a style. You can also use a mood board, one of which I just haven't used the tool myself. And you can also personalize, which is essentially kind of the style creator. You allow the style creator to, which I have here, to generate my art during generation. So when I am creating, I have this little P here on for personalize, so it's set to my specific style that I have. And I can make other styles if I want to. So what do? Well, you essentially, and because this one I'm on relax mode and it's free, I am going to show you. I just touched here and I put my prompt back in here. It's the same prompt. I have here, I clicked this, and now I can change my aspect ratio to whatever I want it to. I know it's kind of like a really big tutorial here that I'm kind of doing, but there's the different modes. Relax mode means I don't use any of my credits. Video doesn't have really a relax mode, so it's kind of deceptive. For video generations 1, 2, and 4, I keep it at 2. Because 4 uses too much of my fast hours all at once if I do a bad generation, but 1 if I did a good generation, then I don't get enough options. So that's why I like that. These here, if you're really into Midjourney, you'll like this. I've really kind of deciphered how this kind of works. Weirdness is like how weird the picture will feel to you. And so composition, the textures, everything, that's really what that is. Stylization, that's about how much of the descriptors in the prompt it will match to. And so it'll get really, really fancy on the descriptors you've used, like neon or like fairy tale or horror or stuff like that. But the weirdness is what'll make it really creepy or really unsettling. Just in general for whatever it is you're doing. I've used really cute stuff and cute prompts, and and gotten some really weird, unsettling stuff because I upped my weirdness too much. And then variety just gives you, and you will get some weirder stuff with this, but if you're wanting some more experimental shots and things like that for pictures or things to turn into video, because that's what you can do with this, then you can change the variety of stuff to get a little bit more creative of what you want the AI to generate for you. And then from there, funny enough, you can go in, and you can do this from here too by just changing this into video. But you can also take one that you like and you can turn it into video directly from here. I'm trying to scroll down because there's more. It doesn't matter. Anyway, there's more here, and you can even loop it, so you can just make a looping animation. So again, even if it's for things like business purposes or social media content, one that I did find that was really useful, I made a looping tool just to play in the background of my album sampler because I thought that was really useful and kind of cool, that it was just a moving background. So you can do that too for anything that you make for online content, which is why these tools are so great. I'm sorry, you just don't need to pay somebody to do any of that for you anymore. And you can make your page look very cool. These are things that people still aren't doing when it comes to non-creative fields. I think about even my day job that I work for, and that things could be a little bit more creative marketing wise. Just everywhere in marketing can start to get a little more creative. Everyone's doing what works, which is fine. I mean, that's the name of the game, right? Do what works. But I kind of have a theory of do what stands out, do what's different, do what catches people's eyes, and has always been my thoughts. So that is essentially how Midjourney works. It doesn't get too much crazier than that. This is an example of a picture that I generated and it turned into animation. Midjourney animation does struggle. You'll see that nothing here in the background is moving. That is really common, I have noticed for Midjourney. So like even here, there's a little bit of movement you'll see, but there's like not a lot of movement. I'm clearly generating some stuff for unicorns. Unicorns are in the first song, so that's what I've been working on here. And yeah, that's how Midjourney works. I think for now, those are really the only 2 tutorials I'm going to do. I know that this may not be everyone's cup of tea, and people may already know this stuff, and it may not even be all that interesting, but I think talking about, as far as people who already use it to create, challenging us to use it differently and how we can use it and how we think about it as a tool, what we can make with it, what kind of stories, what kind of alternative media. But then for people who aren't in the creative spheres, what can we use these things for and these tools for? Because they're here and we can use them, and they are really, not only are they really affordable, but they are, they really open the way to more quality stuff or whatever it is that you're doing, which I think is really important. I also just think that these conversations are neat and fun and just interesting to have on social media, and I don't think we talk about them enough, especially in ways that those of us with these skills can begin to advertise such skills, because while everybody can use AI, it is going to be one of those things where not everybody is going to use AI. And I think that there is a learning curve to this and a skill set to be had. So that being said, if you need any help with anything AI, you just want me to do it for you, I wouldn't mind taking a little bit of a tip. I take tips and I wouldn't mind helping you. Also, just going to throw it out again to collaborators. Would love to collab on literally anything. We can make a project, a story, a song, an art piece, a gallery, whatever it is you want to do. I'm happy to do it. We can even talk about making something that people haven't seen before. I'm happy to do that too. I like me a challenge.